Hello and welcome back to the Pro Video Show. We are back with a bang and looking back on a busy and bonkers old 2021. We'll be taking a look at product releases, podcasts and webinars that we've put together. Plus we'll be joined by our very own tech expert Alistair Davidson, who's going to give us an overview of the Blackmagic Design URSA Mini Pro 12K camera. And we've got an amazing giveaway for you. Yes, you could get your hands on this Acer ConceptD laptop. Stay tuned to find out how. Now, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll know that we've been busy this past year talking to industry professionals on our podcasts and webinars. Some of the highlights were when Alistair caught up with NVIDIA's Jamie Allen and director and DOP Brett Danton to discuss NVIDIA's Omniverse platform and how it can be incorporated into modern workflows.
What Omniverse gave me, and I could see it straight away as soon as I started rendering stuff, was the lighting in it and the way it works inside a path tracing environment. It looks like the real thing. I mean, I drop in a light and I move it around inside a scene, and it's the way I'd expect it to work in the real world. And that was the thing that literally started to blow my mind. I mean, the reflections. I could actually pretend I was back in the studio. And I could actually start to do things that I've never done before that I always wanted to do in terms of lighting.
And you can find out more about NVIDIA Omniverse Enterprise and our proof of concept offer. Be sure to check out our landing page, which we'll of course link in the description for you, that has all of the information. Another highlight was camera and lighting of Ed Lister's episode, where he gave some great insights into lighting on shoot and talks about how the pandemic has affected the industry over the last 2 years.
So I was doing a lot of remote editing, so people would be filming their own stuff and sending it on to me on drives. Like I do a lot with the BBC Orchestra, and they were all filming themselves at home and then sending loads of rushes on. Some guy was doing like a crazy mix down of the audio because they were recording it properly as well. And then we were doing for example, they did like a video for Elton's 80th or however old he is now. So I was they just send me all the rushes and I just edit them from at home. And kind of things like that was kind of weird because it was just, rather than going into a space, shooting it and then cutting it, which we would normally do, we just get sent random little rushes that people had filmed at home. And that kind of happened quite a lot, and that was kind of weird.
So as the COVID pandemic continues to affect many industries across the globe, the media and entertainment world has continuously adapted, finding alternative ways to create content, from live streaming, virtual production, AI-generated collaboration, automated cameras and home studio setups. And as you can imagine, Scan Pro Video have been providing solutions for all of these scenarios. So let's take a look back at some of the most popular and innovative products in Pro Video. There have been big developments in the world of production. Automated cameras were big news, with the BirdDog PF120 NDI box camera being a really popular solution, and the Panasonic Lumix DC BS1H box style camera offering cinema quality in a small form factor whilst being remote controllable and super easy to rig up. Blackmagic led the way in studio cameras with their URSA Broadcast G2 and their Studio Camera 4K Pro, plus the URSA Mini Pro 12K, which we're going to take a closer look at shortly. Other popular cameras included the latest Micro Four Thirds mirrorless camera from Panasonic, the Lumix GH5N2 and the Blackmagic Pocket 6K Pro. Then for lenses, new this month at Scan Pro Video, we've got these really nice options from Samyang. Their first ever zoom lens, the Samyang AF 24-70mm, and one of Samyang's best sellers, the AF 12mm prime lens. Over in action cameras, it was the DJI Action 2 and the Insta360 Go 2 that made the list. Gimbals, of course, are always a popular choice for all types of content creation, and the Zhiyun Weebill 2 and the DJI OM5 were popular ones with our customers this year. On to drones, and unsurprisingly, the DJI Mavic 3 and DJI PFV combo kits were popular choices, as was the wallet-friendly Autel Evo Nano, which shoots 4K 30 frames per second video, paired with a 3-axis mechanical gimbal at a price that won't break the bank. Now, as we mentioned, live streaming definitely took another upturn in 2021, and these awesome products were aimed at making that whole process simpler. The Atomos Ninja 5 and the 5 Plus, the world's first 8K RAW HDR monitor recorder, which works brilliantly with the Atomos Atom X Cast, a modular companion for these that uses the Atom X expansions port to transform it into an advanced multi-input switcher. The Blackmagic Web Presenter 4K Complete Streaming Solution was another popular release in this area, and the Blackmagic A10 Mini Extreme Switcher for professional multi-camera productions. For post-production, the latest version of DaVinci Resolve was released. Version 17 of the colour and edit software boasts over 100 new features and 200 improvements. We've also had a stream of new 3XS systems for all production needs, and we made a video to walk you through all the options available, so make sure to check that one out over on our YouTube channel. Plus, we've put together some awesome Pro Video bundle deals, perfect for getting started in post-production and streaming, including the 3XS Premiere Pro HD Editing Bundle, DaVinci Resolve HD Colorist Bundle, and our Pro Video Live Streaming Bundle. You can check out all of these at scan.co.uk/Pro Video. Once again, we've linked them below for you. Blackmagic Design have been disrupting the cinema camera market for some time now, most notably with their URSAs and Pocket Cinema 4 and 6K cameras, the latest of which is the URSA Mini Pro 12K camera, which we've got here in the studio. And here to tell us more about the camera and 12K workflow is our Alistair. It's great to have you back here with us. Tell us about the camera.
Oh, thanks for having me back again. I mean, this is the Blackmagic URSA 12K. It's the latest cinema camera from Blackmagic. Obviously, the 12K refers to the size of the image that it can capture. It can capture all the way up to 12K images, which is an incredibly high resolution, and it's a really powerful camera at a really affordable price point.
Talk us through some of the specs under this camera before we go on to talk about some of the obvious questions that I've got for you.
Yeah, sure. So the 12K camera obviously shoots 12K. It also shoots 8K, 6K and 4K resolutions as well. It shoots to either SD cards, CFast cards, or you can use an external USB hard drive as well. You can also use EF or PL mounts with it, so you have that option depending on what glass you already own. And it's got two XLR inputs on the top. You can have either V-mount or gold mount batteries, just like any of the other URSA cameras, whether you're looking at the URSA Broadcast or the URSA Mini G2. There's a lot of similarities. You'll notice it's the same body. And yeah, it's the main selling point of this camera is really the high resolution workflow and the codec improvement. So it shoots in what's called Blackmagic RAW or B-RAW, and that's Blackmagic's own codec. And this camera actually only shoots that codec. But there's both positives and negatives to that. But yeah, it's a really exciting camera, I think.
Okay, we'll come back to talk about some of the points that you raised there, but my obvious question is, who is using 12K? I mean, it seems phenomenal to me. I've only just wrapped my head around 4K, and I've seen that my phone camera does 8K, and I don't know where to start with it. So who's actually using 12K out there in the industry? Are we anywhere near that being standard?
No, I wouldn't say so. Yeah, you're not going to see, broadcasts or wedding videographers running around with a 12K camera anytime soon. Really, it's for people that are doing work that needs high resolution, things like VFX plates. If you're working on a high-end film and you need that resolution, if you want to pan and scan or crop in, or you just want to have that extra information there for when you're building your visual effects. That's really where these sorts of cameras come into their own. Also, with the sort of rise of virtual production, where you've got big LED walls and you're having to project an image to that size, these sorts of high resolution cameras are really where they are. They're not, like we said, they're not going to be widely used. You're not going to be sat at home watching 12K. But even with that said, you can downsample it, so you can still shoot in 12K and downsample, but it's not the the standard as yet, I would say.
I guess as well, one of the other benefits of this is future-proofing as well. I mean, you said it's not standard, and I was half joking, Russ. I know we're nowhere near, but how far off do you think that kind of is? Are we heading towards 12K at some point in the near future being industry standard, or where are we at?
I wouldn't even say in the near future. I think, you know, we've still got a long way to go until, you know, our broadcasters still are mainly working in HD. You know, if you're sat at home watching Sky or whatever, it's normally HD you're watching. So we've still got to get that infrastructure up to 4K and then, you know, 8K and beyond. So I think there's a long way to go before we're viewing 12K footage. You know, there's quite a few years in there, but in the meantime, we can still take advantage of the larger resolutions and downscale it.
So you mentioned the 12K camera being reasonably affordable, I would say, for the capabilities. What other reasons would you choose this camera, say, over a comparable one price-wise?
Yeah, so the 12K camera is now the same price as the URSA Mini 4.6K G2, and you can see, you know, 4.6K versus 12K, you've got a lot more resolution. But one of the benefits of that resolution is doing what we call panning and scanning, where if, for example, I was going to set up a talking head interview with yourself, and I only have one camera that I can bring with me, I can set that camera up and I have my wide shot in 12K, but I can also then crop into it to get a much tighter sort of close-up or mid-shot in post-production as well. So really, that sort of work, panning and scanning, downsampling, getting that sort of really clean image without having to artificially blow anything up or do any sort of digital zooms, is really a strength of this camera.
Excellent. So when I'm thinking 12K files, I'm thinking the gigantic. Talk me through then the workflow. What do you do with them afterwards? How do you work with them? So
the files can get quite large. Obviously, if you're recording, you know, for hours on end, you know, 12K footage is going to take up quite a lot of hard drive space. But Blackmagic, I mentioned earlier, the camera only records in Blackmagic's Blackmagic RAW codec, and that's a form of compressed RAW. And what that means is it keeps the raw controls that we would know from, you know, another cinema camera, say. We can still change things like white balance or ISO after the fact. We still have all of that information and latitude in the image, but it compresses the file size. So we're not getting into, you know, terabytes and terabytes for an hour or whatever it is. Uncompressed video can be quite large, but Blackmagic RAW files are very well compressed. They're actually very manageable, and Blackmagic have done a really good job in DaVinci Resolve of allowing it to play back smoothly. So where I'd come from this, I always have the same sort of guidelines when I'm talking to anyone about building a system. Generally, if you're working with video, the graphics card is going to be the biggest part of your system. I would go with a 4GB graphics card for HD, an 8GB graphics card for 4K and higher. So really the new 30 series, you know, the 3080 or even the 3090, which is 24GB of memory on it, would work perfectly fine with this camera. You know, we're making advancements in terms of, you know, 3XS systems and things like that, where we're getting such powerful systems, they can actually now keep up with and work with files that, you know, 2 or 3 years ago would have just been, you know, impossible for us to handle in real time. But yeah, I mentioned there DaVinci Resolve does a really good job of working with these files, but Blackmagic also have a plugin that works with Premiere Pro and Avid Media Composer as well.
Question.
There you go. They've already thought of it. So yeah, you're really not limited to just DaVinci Resolve, although you get a free license for Resolve with the camera. You can, you know, if your workflow uses Premiere or Media Composer, there's a plugin out there. So really, as long as you don't mind working with that raw workflow, the 12K is a great option.
It's a great camera for you. Fantastic. Now, you're a bit of a Resolve Pro, I believe, aren't you? And you've been doing some fantastic top tips. Tell us about some of the subjects that you've been covering then in these videos.
Yeah, so the top tips that we've done were really just sort of feedback that we got from people, from speaking to people who were using Resolve or possibly new to Resolve, or even people that were thinking about switching to Resolve. So we looked at, you know, the sort of common things that people might run into. You know, how do they, you know, set up media storage? How do they set up a database or a project? really sort of basic, quick, sort of 2 to 3 minute tips that will just get you up to speed and running on Resolve as well. We do those top tips. We have YouTube playlists for them as well, so people can go on and watch them if they, rather than searching for them, we have a whole playlist for them. But we do extended webinars for things like DaVinci Resolve as well on YouTube. So if the top tips don't go in, as much depth as people might want, they might want to go watch one of those webinars as well, where we talk a bit more in depth about some of the features within Resolve.
Excellent. They are packed full of lots of useful information, I have to say. Do you have any more planned?
Come the new year, we are looking to start up again, and we're always open to feedback as well. So if there's any part of Resolve that people want to know more about, get in touch with us, let us know, and we'll do what we can to make a video or try and explain that in some way. We want it to be as accessible as we can to everyone.
Excellent. You've certainly covered off some really helpful hints there. Thank you so much for coming to tell us about this wonderful camera. And Alistair will be back, as I say, next year, hopefully with some more great top tips. So make sure you subscribe to the Pro Video YouTube channel so you don't miss out. Okay, so we've talked about Pro Video product releases and the latest in desktop editing systems, but what about laptops? This year has seen some extremely powerful laptops come to market, specifically aimed at content creators. And Acer's ConceptD range has introduced something quite unique to the market with their powerful mobile workstations, which are beautifully designed, super powerful, built to last, and a lot of fun to use. And we've got a super stylish, super portable, and super powerful 14-inch 3-easel Pro to give away to one lucky winner. As the name suggests, the 3-easel Pro comes with an adjustable easel screen that can be tilted in 6 different ways and is finished with anti-glare Corning Gorilla Glass 5. The display is also touchscreen, and it comes with a stylus which is cleverly concealed in the garage. It comes equipped with one of the latest high-end Intel Core i7 desktop CPUs with 6 cores and 12 threads, and boasts professional high-end graphics. This model has got an NVIDIA RTX Quadro 1000 GPU. Graphics are enhanced further by the Pantone validated display for pinpoint colour accuracy and sRGB 100% colour gamut. This model has a 1080p Full HD screen and a 16GB DDR4 high-capacity memory, plus a 1TB PCIe SSD. And all you need to do to be in with a chance of winning is click the link in the description. It's completely free to enter, and you'll also find details of how to increase your entries all for free once you're on the competition page. Well, that brings us to the end of the Pro Video Show for now, but rest assured we'll be back in 2022 with even more great content for you, including product releases, demos, expert tips, and industry events. So make sure you subscribe to our Pro Video YouTube channel. We'll see you in 2022.